1, 2, can you hear me? Can you hear me in the room? Or so maybe everyone please take the headphones if you. And for those of you who don't have them, you like them at the back. And let's begin. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Liva Kaugur. I'm Natural Resources Officer from the Food and Agriculture Organization in the Office of Climate Change, Biodiversity and Environment. I'm really honored to be your moderator today. And thank you really much for joining today's session from Farm and Food to Future, driving climate action through the nationally determined contributions. So this session is really about the action, and agri-food systems are not just part of the climate challenge, they are also a powerful lever for solutions. So today we will explore how countries are turning ambition into implementation and how partnerships can accelerate this transformation. We will hear from the countries how they have been shaping their climate change policies and integrating agri-food systems into them. And we will then also, so our goal is clear, that we today move from commitments to concrete and finance solutions that deliver resilience, food security, and sustainable livelihoods. And without a further ado, I would like to invite the Director of the Office of Climate Change, Biodiversity and Environment from FAO, Kaveh Zaidi, over to you.
Thank you very much, Liva. Can everyone hear me okay? So, a bit louder? Okay, very good. So, thank you for joining this event here in the NDC Partnership Pavilion. Today's event and today's discussion highlights for us a simple truth, that the Paris Agreement cannot be achieved without solutions in agri-food systems. You wouldn't know that if you look at some of the negotiation documents coming out. Don't put that in ENB. But yeah, that's the truth. We can't achieve the Paris Agreement without addressing agriculture and food systems in terms of resilience, adaptation, and of course, mitigation. Agri-food systems sustain 1.2 billion livelihoods and underpin global food security. But of course, as you all know, they are also among the most climate vulnerable sectors, which are already facing yield losses, market disruptions, and rising hunger. But agri-food systems don't just bear the brunt of climate change. They are also poised to be a major part of the solution. With the right investments and policies, transforming them could cut up to a third of global emissions while building resilience and protecting livelihoods. I think the important thing is that this is a one-shot investment that brings us mitigation, adaptation, food security, all in one go. National climate plans that fully integrate agri-food system solutions can unlock much stronger climate action, protect food security, and drive sustainable development. And we've seen that, although many of the NDCs, the climate plans, incorporate agriculture and food systems, the specifics are not quite there in terms of exactly how much they can deliver for adaptation, for resilience building, and for mitigation. It is, in fact, part of the gap, the ambition gap that still exists in the NDCs. I think our work at FAO is guided by this simple conviction, and our analysis of the new NDCs shows that there's still a persistent gap between ambition and implementation. Every country acknowledges the importance of mitigation in agri-food systems, but only 8% have pledged reductions in food systems that are backed by concrete funded measures. The rest remain merely aspirational targets. The adaptation gap is equally worrying. While most countries recognize climate risks to their agri-food systems, less than half included detailed vulnerability assessments, and many overlook the smallholder farmers, the pastoralists, the fisher folk, and the indigenous people, most exposed to climate shocks. Others lack essential planning elements like risk analysis and monitoring and evaluation. Basically, these documents acknowledge the importance but haven't yet translated them into actionable, investable pathways. Transforming agri-food systems at the speed demanded by the climate crisis, of course, requires substantial investment, yet only 1/12 of the needed climate finance currently reaches the sector. And that's why we have initiatives like FAST to try to close that gap. Even where the private sector is named as a key partner, countries rarely specify how or under what condition businesses can invest. So this is a major shortcoming in the NDCs. And I think this is a shortcoming that FAO is helping to address. Through the NDC Agri-Food Systems Help Desk and the FAO UNDP SCALA program, we're working with over 20 countries to turn NDCs into tangible action, from soil carbon projects in Costa Rican dairy and coffee farms to new technical standards for deforestation-free beef, restoration of degraded land, and so on. And for all of this, of course, partnerships are critical. As a steering committee, as a proud steering committee member and implementing partner of the NDC Partnership, FAO is responding to a surge in agri-food-related requests that are now incidentally surpassing those from the energy sector. So really big demand for our support collectively. We're also working through the FAST partnership to align public and private finance with this agri-food system transformation. By strengthening and implementing NDCs, countries can turn ambition into impact, unlocking the full potential of agri-food systems to cut emissions, build resilience, and of course, at the same time, secure food for the future. So thank you for joining us here, and we look forward to hearing from you and continuing this vital discussion on agri-food system solutions and climate action. Thank you, Leva.
Bit of logistics here. I'm sorry for that. Thank you, Mr. Zahedi, for setting the scene for today's discussion and also for underscoring the central role of agri-food systems in the global climate agenda. Now, I would like to turn to our first part of this event. So I would like to invite our country representatives to share their expertise and join the panel. So Ms. Lina and Imelda and Wilmer, if you are here, please join the panel on the stage. So first, I would like to invite Ms. Lina to share your country experience and high-level framing remarks. So Ms. Lina Ngang is Secretary of State and Chair of the Gender Mainstreaming Group in the Ministry of Environment in Cambodia, and she will share Cambodia's third round of NDC experience. So over to you, and for the, yeah, so you come to here. For the slides. Only one slide.
Thank you, Ms. Facilitator. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I'm dedicate, ladies and gentlemen. It is an honor I'm here on behalf of the government of Cambodia. Okay, thank you. Maybe I'm too tall. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, it is an honor to speak on behalf of the Royal Government of Cambodia for this important event to the driving climate action through the NDC 3.0. Cambodia welcomes this opportunity to share our experience integrating agriculture and land use within our updated national climate commitment. In Cambodia, agriculture is opportunity in the pillar of the government economy related with the livelihood and food security and in employing a large share of our population. Yet it is also among sectors most exposed to the climate change, with farmers facing recruitment flood, windstorm, and heat stream, ice crop, livestock. The has shaped our determination to place Agrifood system transformation and the center of our climate change action agenda at COP21 in Paris in 2015. It was agreed that mobilize strong and more ambitious climate action by all party and non-party stakeholders was urgently required to achieve our goal and the Paris Declaration linked to adaptation, mitigation, and inclusive rural development for resilient and green growth. With this, Cambodia NDC 3.0 officially published in August 2025, built earlier than commitment to deliver an integrated and science-based approach to climate action. We identify agriculture, forestry, and land use as one of the 5 priority sectors for both adaptation and mitigation. The NDC 3.0 set ambitious greenhouse and reduction of target for 16 unconditionally and 50% conditionally by 2035, compared to the business as usual scenario. This commitment are supported by the Cambodia Climate Change Strategic Plan 2024 to 2033, the Monitoring and Adaptation Action Plan for the Climate Smart Agriculture MAS, and also that the Pentagonal Strategy 2023 to 2028 and NAP as well. Together for this instrument ensure that agriculture and land use are mainstream across national and subnational planning, linking to mitigation, adaptation, measure with the food security, livelihood, and as a priority. To address the agriculture and our response to climate change requires strong capacity development. Cambodia integrated agriculture into the NDC 3.0 was achieved through evidence-based assessment, multi-stakeholder consultation, and inter-ministerial coordination. With the technical support by our development partner, as well part of SAO, particularly through the SCALA program, implemented jointly by UNDP, Cambodia need to improve data information and improve the land use of forest cover map. This was all used enhanced to agriculture sector. In addition, we have seen seamless collaboration between Ministry of Environment and Ministry of Agriculture and Forestry on the NDC 3.0 preparation process, and also that is the greenhouse emission intervention, and also the thank to UNDP and FAO for support as a technical advisor. To achieve this climate change goal, in agriculture must based on inclusive in development and gender equality. Achieving climate change goal must be root inclusive rural development and gender equality. In Cambodia, women representative, a majority in agriculture, cooperative member own our owner as 60% of SME. This is placing them at the center of agriculture value chain, food system, and also climate adaptation effort. Despite increased participation on economy and political activity over the past 2 decades, women still struggle with the limited political access to the land, office, credit, technology, market, and decision-making space. And many experience triple work burden with heavy unpaid care responsibility. This is very important that we have to consideration. Cambodia firmly believes that gender equality is central to achieve climate action, but achieving this access to resource require greater representative of women in the leadership, improve access to resource and data, and enabling environment women lead agri-business upstream. Under my leadership as the chair of Gender Mainstreaming Working Group Action Plan, within the Ministry of Environment, gender consideration have been systematically enabling to the preparation of NDC 3.0. Gender mainstreaming members are strengthening the capacity integration and gender in climate change and biosecurity planning. With the FAO and our other partner continue to technical and financial support through the project scaling up greater of social inclusion and the UNDP process. This is effort to ensure that climate investment not only to reduce emission but also empower women, enhance quality, and build community resilience. Cambodia achieved the result of strong national ownership, supported by true partnership, particularly with the FAO, UNDP, and NDC Partnership. And for Cambodia has a clear vision implementing the NDC and National Adaptation Plan. In grow to work, Cambodia will continue to strengthen our intersectoral coordination with monitoring NDC 3.0 implementation. As have clear identify key performance indicators. So this is the evidence base that for our Cambodian and mobilize this domestic and for climate change, finance scaling up sustainable and nature-based solution, expand locally led and gender responsive adaptation, deepening knowledge exchange and national global advancement. This is what that. Okay. Okay.
It's more
Deepen
here.
knowledge and exchange with the regional and global Okay, clear? Okay, it's good. Sorry. So I may repeat what I want to say for the next one, that expand locally and gender responsive adaptation and and deeper knowledge exchange with the regional and global partner to accelerate a just, inclusive and resilient agri-food transformation. Cambodia experience demonstrate that transforming agri-food system through NDC 3.0, and also that for the implementation on both possibility indispensable the achievement of the Paris Declaration, and also that for the sustainable development goal. So this is to be achieved for long-term strategy carbon neutrality by 2050 target, in order to ensure that the Korean and to short-term climate action with the long-term climate goal aligned with the long-term finance, including boosting investment in priority sector while ensuring resilience aligned with the clean, green, and sustainable for all Cambodia. This is our SCALA strategy that our Cambodian implemented. We extend our sincere appreciation partner of the collaboration and look forward to hearing from other speaker and about the experience with the climate agriculture policy strategic plan for enhancing that capacity knowledge sharing rural development. So I left that collaboration with our partner.
Thank you, Your Excellency, and apologies for the disruption with sound. For the next speakers, just an advice is really to speak in top part here to make sure that you're hearing. But thank you really much, Your Excellency, to sharing Cambodia's experience and really for prioritizing the also gender equality and sharing the experience, how you integrate that approach also to achieve the agri-food system related nationally determined contributions. Without a further ado, I would like to invite our next speaker and Miss Imelda Kazamba. I'm sorry if I cannot pronounce. Sorry for the sound. So I would like to invite you to share your experience on developing the NDCs in Uganda. Over to you. Try and just speak in the
Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, delegates, and fellow colleagues, I take this honor to represent Uganda at this important dialogue on climate action. In Uganda, agriculture is the backbone for Uganda's economy and livelihoods and food security, and employs over 70% along the value chain of the population. Yeah, but it's yet one of the sectors that is affected by climate change, being faced by drought, severe drought, floods, landslides, and other temperature extremes. The reality underscores the urgency to advance climate action, climate resilience, low-emission agriculture that safeguards both people and ecosystems. Agriculture is at the heart of Uganda's national responses to climate change. Uganda made significant policy advances to strengthen the national response to climate change and ensure that agriculture is at the heart of these efforts. In 2018, the National Adaptation Plan for the agriculture sector was launched with the aim of increasing resilience to agriculture, to the agriculture sector, and the impacts of climate change. The Parliament of Uganda has a Uganda Standing Committee on Climate Change. It was launched in 2019, and its role is to scrutinize all bills related to climate change, mitigation and adaptation, make recommendations to Parliament on legal and institutional mechanisms to address climate change, among other mandates. This committee interacts with all stakeholders, MDAs, that is ministries, departments and agencies, private sector, CSOs, and international community, and it is chaired by our Prime Minister. We have Uganda made the National Climate Change Act in 2021. And this was another key milestone giving legal force to the Paris Agreement, establishing the framework for coordination and accountability at national and subnational levels. This was followed with this now our updated NDC 2022, which addresses both mitigation in agriculture, which is the second highest greenhouse gas emitting sector in Uganda, and adaptation in agriculture, which are both we are about to launch our NDC 3.0, and I'll come back in a moment for this as I continue. The government of Uganda works with partners in agriculture to achieve results. Because we are speaking about agri-food systems playing a key role in achieving NDC 3.0 goals, I want to reflect on how agri-food systems played a key role in implementation of our previous NDC. First, we have made good progress in implementing NDC priorities at the subnational level by using agriculture planning at all levels of government as an entry point to climate change. With the collaboration of FAO and UNDP through the SCALA program, we unpacked the agriculture NAP. We call it agriculture NAP. That is the National Adaptation Plan for the Agriculture Sector and the NDC agriculture priorities. And through the participatory research process, identified local vulnerabilities and adaptation priorities. We then enhanced local planners' capacities, and they have now integrated the Agri-NAP and NDC goals tailored to local context into the district development plans. We have districts in Uganda as one of the institutions that we work with. So we are now exploring the de-risking mechanisms to attract investment. Second, we have also made great strides in addressing gender equality issues. Uganda recognizes that inclusive and equitable climate action is essential for sustainability and is embedded across Uganda's climate and agricultural policies. Recently, we finalized the National Climate Change Gender Strategy and Action Plan, which ensures that by 2030, gender equality and equity are fully integrated in all climate actions. The Ministry of Water and Environment, which is in charge of climate change in Uganda, and the Ministry of Gender, Labor and Social Development jointly led the formulation of this strategy with FAO's technical and financial support. The implementation of the strategy and of the UNFCCC Gender Action Plan is being supported by the FAO sub-program, Scaling Up, Mainstreaming Gender and Social Inclusion under the UNFCCC processes. Also, I should note that gender mainstreaming is further bolstered by the Public Finance Management Act of 2015 of Uganda, through which Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development and Equal Opportunities Commission in Uganda ensure that national plans, ministerial policy statements, budget framework papers, and programs for climate change address finance, climate change and finance, and then gender and equity priorities. Uganda's NDC 3.0 ensures food security, livelihoods, and resilience at the heart of the NDC implementation. Now, looking ahead, Uganda will finalize the NDC 3.0 early next year, 2026. It is the fruit of multi-stakeholder collaboration, and I'm pleased to note two key ways in which it sets up for more impact in the agricultural sector. First, the NDC 3.0 is based on more advanced analysis of climate risk and vulnerabilities, including consideration for gender and scenario analysis. With support from FAO and the World Bank, the NDC 3.0 incorporates climate risk information, adaptation solutions for the agriculture sector based on stronger stakeholder engagement. This helps us better target the interventions and support the resilience of different populations. Because of time, I'll continue from there. Thank you for now.
Thank you so much for sharing. Thank you so much for Is this one better? Yes, it's better. So let's try to use this one. Thank you for sharing the experience from Uganda. Now I would like to move to region that we are currently here. So I would like to invite you, Wilmer Jimenez, to share experience from Ecuador. Over to you.
Can you hear me? Thank you, Madam Facilitator. Thank you to NDC Partnership for your invitation. It's an honor for me to share the progress towards the NDC from. Um, we have this agriculture sector in two subsectors, mitigation, agriculture, and adaptation, and sector food sovereignty, agriculture, livestock, agriculture, and fisheries. We registered with the UNFCCC, the second NDC, in February 2025. Have duration 10 years. We have 3 action lines in sector mitigation, about regenerative and deforestation-free livestock farming. We are working with FAO, is values your support. And with a scenario, unconditional scenario. The second one is reduce greenhouse gas emission for enteric fermentation and manure management. In this action line, we are working with the United Nations Development Program, UNDP. This scenario is unconditional, conditional. And reduce greenhouse gas emission from nitrogen fertilization is a scenario conditional. Is very important for us. We have a lot of people in this sector. And adaptation, we have 6 action lines. This is about expansion of comprehensive parcel level, technician irrigation coverage, implementation of dynamic regenerative agroforestry systems. Agroforestry system is our framework in our country. Adoption of agroecology practice, increase resilience of climate change is too important. Increase in national insurance areas under subsidy scheme. We are now with car is in all country. Expansion in insurance agriculture, land through the development and implementation of new insurance tools and to finish implementation of agroforestry systems. We have a lot of super area to implement activities for development on the implementation plan. We have bilateral meetings, data harmonization, validation, and approval by the Interinstitutional Committee of Climate Change. We have this framework, maybe first quarter of 2026. This is our work about the NDC in agriculture. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Mr. Jimenez, for sharing your experience and Ecuador's experience on prioritizing the subsectors of agri-food systems in your mitigation and adaptation targets in the nationally determined contribution, and also a bit looking way forward, what are the next steps as well. So with that, I would like to conclude the first part. I really appreciate all the three speakers that joined and shared their experiences from different regions today. And thank you so much. So now I would like to move to our second part and invite also, we have colleagues who have joined, colleagues who have also been working extensively on supporting countries and in integrating their integrating agri-food system solutions in their NDCs. So Ms. Rohini and Oliver Camp, and can I also get the new slide? Yes, and also Amelia Lin, please join the panel. Thank you so much, and thank you for joining our session. So I will start with Rohini, and also maybe from the practical side, we have two microphones, and please flag if you cannot hear, let's try to swap them. So I will start with you, Rohini, because some of our previous country speakers were referencing SCALA program, which is a joint program by FAO and UNDP. So can you elaborate on how SCALA program provides examples from, provides support to countries, and also provide other examples from this program, and also your experience from the UNDP side?
Thank you very much. I hope you can all hear me. Great. I think firstly, just I think a big thanks to FAO for convening this event, and for, I think we are very happy as UNDP to be collaborating on this. And also a big thank you to our countries who we've heard speaking. The experience from Cambodia, from Uganda, I think is really, and all our country speakers, is really humbling, because it shows that countries are taking the leadership on this issue, and we are really here to support them. And when we see the presentations and we see the points that they make, we really feel a sense of pride that we are sort of moving in the right direction. So let me just say that before I say my little piece on that. So very happy to be here. And let me know if I go over time, because then I'm going to have to stop. I'm very passionate about this topic. So I think just a couple of, well, more than a couple of insights. So I think we cannot stress enough that agriculture and food systems are at the heart of climate change and the interconnected crisis of biodiversity loss and land degradation. So they're actually sort of in the center of not only the Paris Agreement, but also the UNCCD and also the CBD. And in agriculture, we know the numbers. Crop yields could decline significantly. There are many estimations about this, and this is going to threaten global food security, which is one of the top issues in the world, I think, and for communities everywhere. And actually, FAO and UNDP have done an analysis on the national adaptation plans, and we're going to release that analysis soon. We find that every single national adaptation plan that has been submitted as of 30th June by the parties is prioritizing agriculture and land use for climate action. This tells us a couple of things. Maybe we already knew them, but the analytics are important. It says that these sectors are universally recognized as being very vulnerable, and that they have a huge, immense potential to drive climate resilience and sustainable development. And I think I'm connecting to Kave's statement earlier, because it's also about turning them into action. I think we are not really fully there, but prioritizing them is a very big step. So we know that the implementation at scale is not happening. Many reasons. The top reasons are there is a gap in the evidence base, and climate data is hard to interpret or not available. There is still weak cross-sectoral coordination, limited integration of climate priorities into the national planning and budgeting. And also finance is a bit misaligned, misaligned climate finance for agriculture and food. So now the countries, many of them are submitting their NDCs, some of them have submitted. We heard from Uganda that they might be submitting soon. So the need for the implementation support is very sharp. I think all the parties, the countries are saying it, and we as UNDP are really echoing that implementation is important. These high-level commitments, they need to be costed, they need to be time-bound action plans, and there needs to be alignment to really scale up both adaptation and mitigation in agriculture and land use. We also heard an example from Uganda how mitigation is in the NDC. So it's really both sides, right? Also now, how is UNDP working? We are working essentially, we are not a sectoral, we are not a specialized agency. I think FAO has all their expertise in so many of the sectors, but we are working at the intersection between agriculture, climate, finance, planning, and line ministries, and trying to also tackle the difficult task of private sector engagement, which is a hard nut to crack. Everyone's talking about private sector, but really demonstrating this private sector engagement and working with the private sector actors is a very difficult area for countries to crack, and we are part of that journey. So what we are doing with the Climate Promise, the Nature Pledge, and the SCALA program, which is a jointly led UNDP FAO initiative, working to try and secure more impact on the ground, basically helping to design and implement portfolios of agriculture and food system interventions to combine multiple issues: adaptation, mitigation, biodiversity conservation. But the main, I think, thing that countries are looking for is socio-economic benefits. It's really supposed to be part of the about the development story, and it's not supposed to be an isolated climate story. It is really about that intersection. Secondly, the policy coherence is very important. There are NDCs, national adaptation plans, NBSAPs. We know the UNCCD also has NAPs, national action plans. So we're trying to break down some of these silos between these different agendas. The most important thing and the hardest thing is to mobilize integrated finance for the agriculture sector. So what do we mean by integrated? It's probably the wrong word. It's basically seeing how the domestic finance, private finance and international finance can be somehow combined in a way so that there is some kind of blending. It's not easy to do, but that is also a direction we have to really look at how really to unpack these adaptation and mitigation priorities. So I think, but at the end, I think what we're hearing again from the examples by the countries is that inclusion is important. There are groups, we are mentioning women, youth, and indigenous people. There are local communities which are very, very important. So for UNDP, making sure that there is multi-stakeholder food systems governance is important. And through the SCALA program, we've actually done workshops on this collaboration methodology where we work with different actors to make sure they're involved in the discussion. How much time do I have? Okay, I'm going to try to speed up. And then I think just to zero in on maybe an example, we've, from say in Ethiopia, I think I'm hearing another side event in another room, but anyway. So, oops. Can you hear someone else? All right. Okay, all right. So a very concrete example from Ethiopia. We've been working with the support from UNDP and the GEF, which is the vertical fund, to really restore 3,600 hectares of degraded farmland in Ethiopia. There are 11 million trees planted, ecosystem stabilized, and 30,000 farmers, almost half of them, have adopted climate smart practices like moisture conservation and beekeeping, diversifying incomes. So it's action on all the fronts. And through SCALA, we are supporting 12 countries in Asia, Africa, and Latin America to prioritize the climate solutions in agriculture and land use, try to integrate them into strategies and budgets, but at the same time try to advance the NDCs and the NAP implementation through these multi-sectoral processes. And again, one example, and I'm going to close very quickly. In Costa Rica, SCALA has promoted low-carbon climate solutions for sustainable land management in livestock and coffee. These are very important economic subsectors. This includes piloting a certification for deforestation-free beef, designed hand in hand with livestock farmers and corporations. So it's really working, with the producers, but also corporations, because you can't do one without the other. And the idea is to incentivize private investment in climate resilient and nature positive agricultural practices while unlocking new partnerships and really trying that triple dividend. And sorry, that's a jargon, but triple dividend means there's a socio-economic benefit, there's an environmental benefit, and there's a climate benefit. So at the same time, in the same country, the program is facilitating interministerial coordination at the national level. So it's like working at the local and the national level. So my final words are that the building resilient and sustainable agriculture and food systems is not optional. It's very, very central to achieving all these big, lofty goals we are talking about on climate, biodiversity, and development. And we have to keep supporting countries to both design and implement ambitious, actionable climate measures using these NDCs, the NAPs, the NBSAPs, and the national plans. And implementation is happening, but it's not fast enough. So then we have to use these tools to really accelerate. Otherwise, why have these planning tools? Because the idea is that they should make a difference. There was implementation already happening. What is happening which is faster because of why we have these? So for us, the SCALA program, which we are very proud of, is really essential as a delivery vehicle to help this translation. And we continue as UNDP and with partners such as FAO to really continue supporting countries in advancing these plans, including NDCs, which are ambitious and impactful, and really putting agriculture and food systems truly, really at the center of the conversation. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Rohini. And I really liked what you said. It's the agri-food systems, it's not an option. It's really a must that needs to be integrated in these national climate policies. And thank you also for giving a broader context on what SCALA program does, and then of course linking it with the UNDP climate promise as well. So I think that gave also a bigger or larger perspective also on the overall work that UNDP is doing in supporting countries. Now I would like to turn to our dear colleague, also friend, Oliver Kemp. You've been following the agri-food systems and in this space, also in other global and regional fora. So what are some of the, can you do a quick SWOT analysis to when it comes to integrating agri-food systems in the NDCs? So what are the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats that you see in this process, especially this year and of course last year as well, when countries start to revise their NDCs?
Thank you, Liva. Let me check everyone can hear me well. That's good. It's a hot room. It's week 2, day 2. So I'll only have 5 points to make, and I think fairly brief ones. I think the first thing to say as we look at the NDCs is they're highly varied. I mean, we've heard from countries today, and I understand with Uganda as well, we'll see quite detailed NDCs where the NDC will really be a flagship document for climate policy, but introducing other parts of development policy as well. Whereas in other countries, they can be very, very short and very brief and a smaller part of an overall climate policy framework. But nonetheless, I'll try to give the overview of what we're seeing on agri-food systems in this varied set. And the second point, before I go specifically to agri-food, is just that overall, we have to acknowledge that NDCs are falling short. There were too few, they were very late, and also we know now from the synthesis report that we aren't going to achieve the 1.5 degree limit. We will overshoot that limit unless we can really accelerate. But also there are very wide ranges of ambition within the NDCs, so we really need to make sure that countries are aiming for the upper range of their ambition. We know that there's very high conditionality, so climate finance, of course, is crucial. We need to make sure that that climate finance does flow, but equally we need to make sure that conditionality doesn't prevent us from making progress where we can. And so then to come to the more positive story, if that's a bit negative, I do think you can make the case that there's a positive story on food systems. And that's because, well, as we've heard, most NDCs do include, the vast majority do include components around agriculture especially. Around 88%, according to an analysis that we published yesterday, includes sustainable agriculture. Can you hear me well, Kavi? No? Yep. Around 75% include food security, and only a little less than that, around 62% include livestock, sustainable livestock. So we can see that these themes are really starting to come through, and all three of those are an increase from the last round of NDCs. Fisheries, likewise, and marine ecosystems also coming through really prominently. So that must be good news. I agree with Kave's earlier point that sometimes these are mentioned rather in passing, rather than detailed very comprehensively. So we could add more detail to the plans. That said, many countries would leave the implementation plans to a separate document. It may be another part of the agriculture and food policy framework, or it may be an NDC implementation plan. But overall, I think we see good trends. So that's my third point and the positive story on food. The fourth point is that there is for sure room for improvement. And I think I would choose two specific areas, maybe Amelia might say some of the same, that we're really missing opportunities to achieve more. One is food loss and waste. Food loss and waste, I think all of us in this room would agree, is a key area for us to take action on. We know that in some countries up to 40 or even 50% of food in some value chains is being wasted, and yet only around 29% of NDCs are currently incorporating action on food loss and waste. Surely a missed opportunity. And likewise, all the research tells us that the place where we have the most potential to make change on both the environmental side, but actually also co-benefits like health and nutrition, is by shifting diets. And I know diets are a politically difficult topic. It's hard to start talking about diets in climate policy, but it is true nonetheless that only about 2% of NDCs are really talking about food security and nutrition in a robust, and detailed way. And the prevalence of diets is just very, very low still, as it was in the last round of NDCs. So that's my fourth point on the room for improvement. And then just the fifth point very briefly, and Amelia will touch on this as well. You've heard about some great tools to support NDC development for the countries yet to develop their NDCs, but also to support the implementation. We work with FAO. We're very grateful that FAO are leading the charge on this, but there are also other tools. There's the Initiative on Climate Action and Nutrition, where again, we work with our colleagues at FAO to introduce more policy coherence between food security and nutrition and climate. And then there are other areas of policy coherence work that I'd be very happy to discuss afterwards so that I don't use more time in this hot room. But there really is a lot of support out there, and I think we invite countries to come and engage with us, with the UN system, with civil society, so that we can be your allies and colleagues in this work. Thanks, Liebe.
Thank you. Thank you, Oliver. Thank you for keeping it short. And last but not least, I would like to turn to Amelia Lynn. And I would like to ask you, from your perspective, how can governments assess how well they have integrated agri-food systems in the NDCs? And maybe you could give also some examples from your experience then on the practical kind of assessments and blended finance to the risk mechanisms.
Thank you so much, and thank you for having me here today. Can everybody hear me okay? Okay, thank you. Well, I think Ollie has teed this up very well, but I'm here today representing the Food Systems NDC Scorecard, which has been a collaborative project of Mercy for Animals and Global Alliance for Improved Nutrition and several other partners. And the Food Systems NDC Scorecard seeks to assess how well countries have integrated food systems into their NDC. And so one of the priorities when we first started this project was to create a structured and transparent methodology that could be used both to assess NDCs, but could also be used by countries as a tool while they're developing NDCs or to conduct a self-assessment of their NDCs or climate policies. So as we developed this methodology, we decided on 4 key areas for how food systems should fit into NDCs. So we first looked at the scope of food systems coverage. So looking at whether an NDC includes policies that address each stage of the food system. So looking at food production as well as food consumption and food loss and waste. And then the second category we looked at was context-specific action. So looking at the depth of action in NDCs in line with national context. So for this, we had different categories that applied to certain countries. So for example, for countries that have high impact dietary patterns, where they're already consuming well above recommended limits, we looked at whether those NDCs included policies to shift towards lower impact dietary patterns. And then the third category we looked at was promoting synergies and avoiding maladaptations. So here we looked at whether NDCs included policies promoting synergies between food systems and other important objectives like biodiversity. And we also looked at whether the NDC included potentially high-risk food systems policies, like expanding the agricultural frontier or increasing the production of crops for non-food uses. And then our final and fourth category was looking at equity and inclusiveness in the NDC. And for this category, we looked beyond just food systems and looked at the broader NDC. And so to date, we have done these in-depth analysis of 10 NDCs, and 8 of them are now live on our website. And so it's a small sample of NDCs, but I think many of the trends we've seen within this small sample are also reflected and confirmed by the analysis that Ali mentioned. So overall, we've seen that many countries are not yet fully embracing the potential benefits of fully integrating food systems into NDCs. So we have seen some really strong examples of ambitious policies of food systems action within NDCs, but we've also seen that many countries are looking at a narrow slice of the food system, and particularly a focus on the production stage and missing opportunities to look at food loss and waste and looking at diets and food consumption. We've also seen a trend that for countries that have high impact dietary patterns, very few have included measures to shift towards lower impact dietary patterns. But we did find examples, and I think Switzerland was a strong example here of including diet measures within their climate policy. So it was encouraging to see that countries are now taking this step. And then finally, we did see examples of NDCs that included potentially high-risk policies around food systems. So things like increasing the production of crops for non-food uses, as well as intensifying animal agriculture. But overall, we hope that this scorecard framework can help countries to improve their food systems action within NDCs and other climate policies. And we think there are a number of ways that the food systems NDC scorecard can support that enhanced action. So of these assessments that are already available, we hope that the assessments can provide good examples from the global community of ambitious food systems action. And for the countries we've assessed, they also highlight gaps that could be addressed in future NDCs or in domestic implementation and domestic policy measures. And the assessments themselves, while they do provide a score, they also are quite in-depth and provide analysis and recommendations and suggested tools. So we hope that this sits as a complementary tool to some of the other tools and reports that have been produced. I think the Food Forward NDCs toolkit and the Animals for Climate Action toolkit are a great complement in providing a menu of policy options that countries might consider. And finally, for countries that have not yet submitted an NDC, we hope that the scorecard methodology paper could be used alongside the development process as a roadmap for how a country might seek to comprehensively include food systems. So I encourage you to visit our website to see the assessments and the methodology, and I'm happy to answer any questions afterwards as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, wonderful speakers. I won't open the floor for the questions. However, I would like to invite our colleague Anne Roth, because some of the work that was presented, especially supporting countries through the SCALA program, is funded by the government of Germany. And therefore, I would like to invite Anne Roth to also share from her perspective how they see the way forward in terms of integrating agri-food systems in the NDCs.
Yeah, thanks, Lieber. Good afternoon, colleagues. Can you hear me? Okay, perfect. Yeah, just stepping in here at the end. I want to share that the German government is indeed supporting the integration of food and agriculture into NDCs, and we put a lot of our climate finance into that work, particularly through the SCALA project here, which has been mentioned by FAO, who is one of the implementing agencies and also UNDP. We had interesting case studies from countries who participate in the SCALA project. So this is one of our flagship projects in food and agriculture through the International Climate Policy Initiative from the German government. Also, what I wanted to highlight, we heard the SWOT analysis from Oliver on the current status of NDC. Of course, there is still the ambition gap, but you also said that there's hope, so this is a good sign. And yeah, through the new Agrifood help desk, which has been developed by FAO, we support countries to integrate food and agriculture. And I also want to echo the idea to integrate measures of reducing food loss and waste, because this is one of the promising actions to reduce emissions in food systems. Also, already 2 years ago, funded by the German government, the Food Forward tool was developed by different actors, also including FAO, WF, and others, to help countries to integrate food and agriculture into NDCs. Also, being here at this NDC pavilion, if you look at the walls, there we can see why we have the NDCs, and food and agriculture really has to play a role in climate action. So this is important also with respect to climate finance. Kaveh, you were mentioning the FAST partnership. There, Germany is also one of the funders. It has been developed since COP27, and its core mandate is improving access for climate finance in food and agriculture. Tomorrow on the Food and Ag Day, we will have the ministerial session here at COP30 to drive forward our actions there. And also looking back in September, we had the SCF forum in Rome, again at FAO, one of our core players in this area, to strengthen these efforts to improve the climate finance. And also NDCs can offer climate finance options for our sector. So this discussions here are very important, and I thank you all to bring in here our sector, and let's keep this going. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Anne, and I think that also kind of wraps up the event. So thank you also to Germany for continuous support throughout, not only through SCALA program, but all the other initiatives that you all already mentioned. So we are looking forward to work together with all the countries, with the partners, with all the partnerships as well. So with that, I hope we can continue the discussions in the corridors. Thank you so much.
If I might say informally, on behalf of UNDP and FAO team, to thank you to the countries. And I think many of our countries have been with us with NAPAG and SCALA, which was funded by the government of Germany. So it's an 8-year association. So thank you so much, and good to hear from Anne on that. Thank you.